What's up guys, I'm Nurbuka coming at you with another episode of But Does It Spin, and today we're gonna go down some memory lane. Now you might be thinking, are we gonna talk about Bakutin Shoot? Well, sort of, not really. But way back in the early 2000s when Bakutin Shoot first aired here in Brazilian TV, of course all of the kids wanted those Beyblades. So of course all of the kids got all of the parents to go to all of the toy stores to get some Beyblades, and there were none to be found, much to their dismay. Of course, eventually, bootleg Beyblades did make their way into the Brazilian market before the original ones. And I'll get into that a little bit, but before that, I'm gonna be telling you a story of how us here from Brazil used to get our Beyblade needs before Beyblades actually came to the Brazilian market. The thing is, I'm not too sure how this happened. Maybe it was divine intervention, because internet wasn't really a thing back then. I mean, yes, we did have internet, but it wasn't every household that did have internet. And even the houses that did, kids usually didn't get on it. It was usually one family computer per household, and it was usually an adult that spent their time on the computer. Kids didn't really know what the internet was, right? And so I'm not sure how this method went widespread in the entirety of Brazil. Maybe it's just something that made sense, or maybe, like I said, it was wholly divine wish that Brazilian kids would play with Beyblades this way. But the one way that everybody here made Beyblades with was through detergent bottle caps. That's right. And now you guys from outside of Brazil might have a different looking detergent bottle, different looking detergent caps. I'm not too sure, but it doesn't have to be a detergent cap. Anything with these tips or nipples, they work. I did try to find a Gatorade bottle cap, because those used to work as well. But apparently here in Brazil, the Gatorades no longer have the nipple caps. They have a normal cap. I did find a water bottle that had one of these things, which is not really a nipple cap, but it does look like a funnel, like this. Let me try to focus that. And this work as well. Anything that is kind of a funnel shaped like this, that isn't too tall or too short, they will work, okay? But yeah, what we usually stuck to were detergent bottle caps, because they were small enough to make a bunch of, to carry them around and whatnot, and to battle them without the teachers taking them away from us and stuff. So, you know, this is what we played with. So today I'm going to be showing you how we used to make the little Beyblades out of these. And yes, they didn't used to look like this. Over the years, of course, the brands, they changed what the caps look like, so it won't be exactly what we used to play with. It wasn't flat like this. But the way this changed, either, again, it was a divine intervention, or whoever designed this cap had a kid who really liked playing with this as Beyblades, because the new design makes it even better. I will show you in a little bit. But before we continue, leave us a like if you've been enjoying this series, and consider subscribing not to miss any future videos of But Does It Spin. So are you ready? Let's go. So first off, you will need to take the cap off, and depending on the country you're in, you might just need to turn it around, turn it a few times to get it off. But here in Brazil, you aren't actually supposed to take this off, so it is a little difficult, so I will be using a knife. If you are a kid, do not do this alone at home. Ask for an adult to do this. You know, it's not a good idea to try this alone, because if you get hurt, obviously you're not gonna like it, you're not gonna enjoy that, and then once your parents find out, you're gonna get yelled at. So it's a lose-lose situation. If you are gonna try this at home, then just go out right now, ask an adult to help you. They will help you, they won't yell at you, it will be okay. So the easiest way I found to open these was to just get a knife, put it inside, and just kind of push it like this. You can already see it giving way, right? And that's it. It's pretty easy, but like I said, it is a sharp object, so don't try it unless you have adult supervision, or unless you are an adult. If you're a kid, I'm not saying that you're not capable of, I'm just saying stay safe, right? ask and help for an adult. Let them cut their hands. Don't hurt your hands. But yeah, there we go. This is the bottle cap. And of course, just like this, it's not gonna spin because it does have that huge flat part, so it's not gonna spin with that. Not only that, but it is pretty short. And like I had just mentioned, you do want something that is a little taller, that is not too short. There are these detergent bottle caps, which is also a detergent bottle cap, but from a different brand. And this one, as you can see, is much taller, and this will spin okay without you having to mess around with it too much. You can just get this and already spin it, and that will work. This one, though, we will have to modify a tiny bit. So you want to pull off this cap, this white part, and you just need to pull on it, and it will come off. And here already is the interesting part, is that this does have that little tip on it, right? Which of course was served to plug the hole of the cap, but that makes it a great stamina tip, okay? That tiny little thing will be a great stamina tip for when you spin. And that's great and all, but like I said, it is very short. This is very short and light, so it won't spin very well. And here is the kicker. Here's the thing that that makes me think that the designer of this cap was either someone who played with Beyblades when he was a kid, with this bottle cap Beyblades when he was a kid, or his kid used to do that. Because once you get this, you turn it around like this, and you plug it into here. You can see that there is a space for it. You just need to force it a little bit, and it clicks in like that. Clicks in like that in a perfect fit. It adds that weight on top, but not only so, it leaves this little hole on the middle, which will help you launch it. Okay, so this already is our little bottle cap Beyblade, the most rudimentary type. So let's check it out. Of course, to launch it, you will need a few more things. Of course, there are launchers we can make, but the most simple way, I'm gonna show you the most simple way because this is the most simple little bottle cap spinner that we made. The most simple way is with a pencil or pen that you have and a piece of string, okay? The string though, I don't like using like really thin strings, but I also don't like using really thick strings. I have found that this dental floss works well. I know you might think it's icky, but these aren't used. I just cut it off. And these are more resistant than normal strings, so I do like using this more. So let's focus on the back here, and let me show you how to do it. So just put your finger there like this, and then start wrapping around your Beyblade a few times. It doesn't have to be too many. It can just be a little bit for you to be able to pull on. And then you grab the pencil or pen, put it on that little hole, and you're good to go. Let it rip. And there you go, let it rip. As you see, because it's a stamina tip, just a little pointed tip, it is spinning in place quite well, quite nicely. And that's how we used to play. We used to launch one like this, another friend used to launch another, and just play around like that. Very simple, but very fun. And yeah, there you go. But of course it didn't stop there. Since these were made of bottle caps, these were highly customizable, which was half of the fun. Even on the anime, they were constantly customizing. Of course, we were customizing with like household items, but still. Do you guys remember that one Bakunin Shoot episode where some kids from the jungle appeared to take part in the tournament, and they had like this wooden Beyblades nailed together with twigs and other stuff? And it was kind of like that, not as rudimentary, of course. Here in Brazil, we did have plastic and super glue and whatnot. But that brings me my next point. One of the main modifications that people made was, of course, to fill these empty spots with hot glue. Inside here as well, inside here, to make it heavier. Because we all know, heavier Beyblades mean heavier hits, better resistance, and all that. People also often also got bottle caps. Of course, this is a half cap, but if you have the normal bottle caps, people used to put like coins on them, or coins and hot glue, or like bolts and whatnot, metal stuff, and then they used to glue this shut, hot glue this shut. That way it kept a small form factor and spun around much better. Of course, we could also change around the tip. Some people used to get one of these things, that you put the screw on. They used to cut parts of it and glue onto the tip here. Not only so, but you could use stuff like this, which was like a shower stopper, I believe, and you could glue them on here to have like a wider base. You could get tiny little rubber rings and just pop them on there like that. So that it does have the stamina tip, but that when it tilts, the rubber will catch on it and make it go around like, modern drivers. Not only that, but you could also get bigger rubber rings, put them on top for the heavier weight, or even huge rubber rings to use them as contact points, so that not only would it spin around with more width and weight, it would spin around better and stronger. It would carry out the weight on its spins, but also the rubber hits would be better against your opponents. So the sky was the limit. Using your imagination, you could make all sorts of Beyblades with your friends, and it used to be amazing. And like I said, the main component did not have to be a detergent bottle cap, right? Like I said, there were these other kinds of caps, which I can show you. You can launch it no problem. You just wrap them around like that. Let's focus. And there you go. It kept spinning, right? Anything funnel type, anything that looked kind of like a smaller funnel that wasn't too tall, like I showed you the other detergent cap, this one was much easier to do. You didn't need to add anything in here. You didn't need to add anything into this hole, but you can see that there was space to do so, just like the other one. But also, you could get stuff like this. Completely metal. This was it was a beak for one of the faucets, I think. And you could spin this around and it would be much heavier, of course. It would be better than others. Stuff like this, which was like a tiny little light bulb screwing thing, I think. I'm not too sure. People used to always also get like normal bottle caps, and those bottle cap rings? People used to get bottle caps, and these bottle cap rings, cut them up, turn it around to make them have this jagged contact points, and then glue them onto your thing like this. It was all sorts of crazy customization. It was a wild era back then. We used to have so much fun with this stuff. Homemade Beyblades was the way to go. That's what we used to play with in the schoolyard. It was one battle after another. Just so much fun. One of the things that we used to do a lot was this part of the pen. We used to cut them in half, and that would give us one tip would be kind of like a Zephyr, like a whole flat, which I did already put on this one. You can see, right? Pretty nice. And then the other half would have this flatter, would have this wider, still round but wider tip, which you could glue onto one of these as well. And that's how we used to play around. Sometimes some people, I did say, they used to cut this part off to have that whole flat, and that was amazing. That was an awesome era. And then the bootlegs hit the Brazilian market. And let me tell you, a lot of us were divided back then. Some of us let go of our homemade Beyblade ways and went full out on the bootlegs, because the bootlegs looked like the Beyblades in the anime, right? That said, not all of them were great. Some of them were very fragile. Some of them had lead paint on them. It wasn't a very fun time to be a kid in Brazil when all you had was bootleg Beyblades. So a lot of us did stick to homemade Beyblades, and a lot of us did stick to the bootleg because the originals hadn't come in yet. The only way to get an original Beyblade was either to go overseas, which a lot of us couldn't, or to buy them from someone who did go overseas and brought them to Brazil. So they were not only very rare, they were also very, very expensive. That said, after a few years, those who did jump on the bootleg bandwagon, they ended up with some regret for spending so much money on those Beyblades and a lot of broken parts of Beyblades. And that's when another time for critical decision came for a lot of the kids back then. Some of them simply gave up on Beyblade because they felt like, Beyblades were too fragile, they were breaking apart, they couldn't have original ones. So from the frustration, a lot of kids quit Beyblade back then. And some of the kids, they went back to homemade Beyblades with an arsenal of broken Beyblade parts. Not only could you put tips on here, I do have some broken Metal Fight bootleg Beyblades, but the idea was the same with the Bakutin Shoot one. You could get the tips, you could glue them on there for those performances, or instead of using bottle caps, you could just use that Beyblade base and then put stuff onto it. Of course, I do have some rings here, some metal contacts, and we could put this on some of the bottle caps. They used to simply fit nicely like that, and then you could just spin this for that added weight. Customization was even better with all those broken Beyblade parts. Of course, it made the game a little unfair to people who had a lot of those parts, who had those shaped plastic that was meant for heavier attacks, rather than just those of us who put like rubber parts on it and plastic bits on it. So the game was very varied, and maybe that helped getting other people's Beyblade broken more. I don't know, but it's a game that evolved with time, right? Kids got more genius ideas on how to make their little tops better, how to make them spin well, and beat others. So it was a wonderful era in my opinion. That said, launching them with a string and a pen or pencil was also a technique that got old pretty fast, because kids who had Beyblades, they had launchers, right, that spin much better than you with a pencil and a piece of string. So we did also try to improve on that. For those kids who did have Beyblade parts, putting the top part, the layer part, on here. If you had a intact layer part, that top layer part, glue that on top of here, and you could use your Beyblade launchers to launch your homemade Beyblades without any issue. But for those of us who didn't have Beyblades, one of the things that we did was, of course, to get this ring, which is from the bottle caps, right? Like that. We used to get this out and just tie them to our piece of string here. And tie them to a piece of string, and then we could pull with this instead of wrapping them around our finger to pull, which made it feel more like Beyblade to a lot of us. We did like that. It was a little improvement, but it was okay. Not only that, but we also made make-do launchers like this. A lot of people made them out of CDs and whatnot, but it didn't have to be CDs. It just had to be something straight, somewhat hard, like a thicker cardboard, and you would just need to hold your Beyblade in place so that you could launch it, which also made it a lot better. I will try to show you that. Let it rip. And there you go. That was some make-do launchers, but it was much better than holding a pen down to do it. We made do. Some people made them out of 2 CDs. Some people made 2 holes to be able to launch them 2 at a time. And that's how we did battle. So yeah, that's how we used to let it rip back in the days. For a lot of you, Bakutin Shoot or Metal Fight Beyblades were your first Beyblades, but for me and a lot of Brazilians here, this this was the way, guys. So, without further ado, let's do some battles. Let it rip. Let it rip. And that's it, folks. As you see, making the tips different, they do have that different pattern. You saw that this whole flat one, he did have the attack pattern, the floral attack pattern, which is incredible to have in homemade bottle cap stuff, right? The stamina one, of course, stayed in the middle. And yeah, this is how we used to play with Beyblades. And I still think it's a fun little project to have with either your child or your nieces, or, you know, with like school kids, you know, a fun little evening project to have with kids. But yeah, that's what I had to show you. Take the conclusions you like from that. I hope that was enjoyable. Leave us a like if it was so, and subscribe to see more videos like this. Of course, we are focusing more on Beyblades, but sometimes we do bring some spinning tops, usually not homemade ones, but you know, stuff that we can spin just to see if they actually do spin. So if you're into stuff like that, I'll see you next time, and until then, stay nerdy, guys.